Before we start, we begin today by acknowledging that we walk upon the traditional territories of Indigenous people, and we recognize their history, spirituality, culture, and stewardship of the land. And we're grateful to all Indigenous groups for their commitment to protect the land and its resources, and we are committed to reconciliation, partnership, and enhanced understanding. And I'd also like to take a moment to recognize Louis Nate, a former chief of the Yabatum First Nations community who just passed away last week. His funeral will be on Wednesday of this week. And Louis, as a former chief and a current member of the Yabatum First Nations Council, was very dedicated to improving the quality of life in Yabatum. He was currently the housing coordinator and economic development officer. And for those of you that can stand, please stand as we take a moment of silence to remember someone who shared this land and shared his passion to improve the lives of Indigenous people. Thank you. Yabatum was certainly very lucky to have him as one of their leaders. And on behalf of the City of Markham, a partner with the Yabatum First Nations, I've expressed our condolences to the entire community on behalf of the City of Markham and would like that noted in today's minutes as well. Any disclosure of pecuniary interests? Approval of the minutes of the council meeting held on January the 28th, moved by Councillor Lee, seconded by Regional Councillor Heath. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Presentations, members of council, we do have a number of deputations that wish to speak to item 8.2.4. I would like to get a member of our staff, because not everyone here has had the luxury of seeing the staff presentation. I know some of the members of the public were here, but certainly not as many as are here today. So I just want to make sure that people understand our current policy and then what is being proposed. And the other thing that I would ask when this presentation is finished, and there are members of our community who wish to make deputations, this is what Canada is about. People have the opportunity to express different opinions, and I would ask that we're in the council chamber and that the decorum of everyone here reflect that, and please be respectful when others are speaking, and as you would want them to be respectful of you when you are at the podium speaking. So with that, I'm going to ask Alita to do a presentation, but one more thing before I start, and sorry with everyone in the crowd, I just want to acknowledge, once you're part of the political family, whether you like it or not, sometimes you never really get to leave. But I understand that former Cabinet Minister and MPP for Markham, Michael Chen, is here, and I welcome Michael wherever you are. So thank you for being here. And I also believe that former councillor for Ward 8, Alex Chu, is also here. So Alex is right up at the top there. Thank you very much for coming. So I think that's it for former politicians, and that's probably a good thing. So we'll leave it at that.
Forward first, right? Do you want to move the item forward?
We'll let Alida make her presentation. Then we'll hear from deputations, and then I think Councillor Usman would like to make a motion to bring the item forward so that we can deal with it. But we'll deal with that after the deputations. Okay. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. So today's presentation is on the community flag raising and flag protocol policy. Today's agenda will include the purpose of the presentation, some background information, an overview of the city's current community flag raising and flag protocol policy, other municipality flag raising practices, the federal government's amendment to its national flag etiquette guidelines.
Excuse me, Rita, sorry, I apologize. Could you just adjust the microphone
Is that any better?
A little bit more, I think, with the volume of people in here. I want to make sure that everybody can hear you.
Sure. Is that any better?
That's a little better, yeah. Just speak up.
Okay, I will. How it aligns with our strategic priorities and the staff recommendation. So the purpose of today's presentation is to provide council with information on the city's current community flag raising policy and flag protocol. Some background information. At the October 22nd, 2019 General Committee directed staff to report back on the city's community flag raising policy and flag protocol. This request was made following some concerns raised by some members of the public with respect to the flag raising that took place on Saturday, October the 5th, 2019 for the National Day of the People's Republic of China at the Markham Civic Center. At the February 3rd, 2020 General Committee, they considered the report entitled The City of Markham's Community Flag Raising and Flag Protocol Policy, and there was an amendment made to the proposed staff recommendation, which I'll show you later on in the presentation. And this is an overview of the policy. The city raises flags to enhance public awareness of activities that are important to Markham residents. The city's flag is also flown at half-mast to mark periods of official mourning or to commemorate solemn occasions that are important to Markham residents. In 2011, Markham adopted its community flag raising policy and flag protocol policy, and at that time, they installed 2 community flagpoles at the Markham Civic Center. Since the adoption of this policy, the City of Markham has had over 150 community flag raisings. So what does the policy establish? It establishes protocols for flying the flag at all of the municipal buildings, properties, and facilities, the process for submitting a community flag application, the criteria for approving or denying a community flag application, and that the clerk or her designate is responsible for providing advice on whether a community flag application meets the criteria to be approved or denied. And the principles used to interpret the policy. The city will use flags to celebrate Markham's diversity and to honor individuals who have contributed positively to the city and the lives of its residents. The flying of flags will not be contrary to any federal, provincial, and City of Markham policies. The city will only fly national flags that are recognized by federal, provincial, or municipal governments of Canada. And then I'd like to just put a little note here, which I think is very important. So the flying of flags should not be interpreted as the City of Markham's support for politics of nations, ethnic groups, or organizations. Rather, it should be recognized as the city's support of the residents that have made the request. The policy permits community flags to be raised to honor national or independence days important to Markham residents, support fundraising drives important to Markham residents, and to celebrate multicultural events that are also important to Markham residents. The policy does not permit a community flag to be raised on the community flagpole when the request is to fly a flag of a political party or religious group, if it supports a political or religious fundraising drive, and the request is from an organization or events that promote beliefs that are contrary to any other city policy. In 2011, Council delegated authority to the city clerk to approve or deny a community flag raising request. When the same community flag raising request has been on a previously approved council within the last 5 years, and during summer recess, if it's required, and it's also subject to the terms of the policy. Municipalities across Ontario allow for public flag raisings. In York Region, along with the City of Markham, the Town of Newmarket, the Town of Aurora, the City of Richmond Hill, and the City of Vaughan all conduct flag raisings. Most York Region municipalities have very similar community flag raising policies. And this is just a list of the municipalities that approve flag raising requests and that they also have an approved policy. Since the adoption of the city's flag raising and flag protocol policy, the federal government has amended its national flag etiquette guidelines to include the following days of commemoration for which the flag is lowered. June 23rd, which is the National Day of Remembrance for Victims of Terrorism, the second Sunday of September for Firefighters National Memorial Day, and the last Sunday of September for Police and Peace Officers National Memorial Day. Staff are recommending that the city's current policy be amended to add these 3 days to the list of solemn occasions which are annually recognized here at the City of Markham. The policy allows the recognition of various community groups and organizations within Markham. The policy promotes significant involvement and participation of both residents and businesses, which contributes to improved citizen engagement. So the proposed staff recommendations with the original report are as indicated on the screen, to receive the report to add those other 3 days and that staff be directed to give all things necessary. And at the February 3rd, 2020, General Committee meeting, the staff recommendations were amended to include Clause 3. And I'll just read that out so that people are aware that the City of Markham community flag raising and flag protocol policy be amended to eliminate the flying of any national flags other than the Canadian flag at the Markham Civic Centre or any city-owned facility, except in the event of a visit by a dignitary to the City of Markham. And that ends my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. And you did make that presentation at committee, and certainly we had a fair bit of discussion. So, Councillor Keys, a question to Alida, is that? Councillor Usman, I believe, just wants to make a motion to bring the item forward, but okay, we'll deal with that after the deputation. So, Councillor Keys.
Quick questions. Thanks again for the presentation. And just for some clarification, I think it was on slide 15 where you reference the other municipalities within York Region and their policies. Mm-hmm. It looks like there are other municipalities that do not have policies in place for foreign flag raisings, and therefore we wouldn't be alone within York Region if we were to adopt this motion. I just want clarification on that.
So the two cities that currently do not is King City and the town of Stouffville. Right,
correct. So, okay, and they're within York Region.
Right.
And they are, therefore, they fall under the charter that has been referenced in, I believe, a petition going around. Just want to make sure we're clear on that. Mm-hmm. And I mentioned this at the last week's meeting as well, as the research that you've done and some of this discussion, it gets conflated with the community flag raising policy and the fact that all we're referring to here is the flying of foreign national flags. We're not talking about eliminating all community flag raisings. I just want to make sure that that's clear. Again, there has been information circulating that is suggesting that that's what.
Okay, I'll leave the debate for the debate part. I thought you had questions, but I would just say that the majority of the municipalities in the region of York allow for foreign flags to be flown at their civic center. And they're wonderful communities, but I can tell you that the populations of both the communities that don't would probably be smaller than some of the wards we have in Markham, and probably wouldn't reflect the diversity. And the other thing I'll just say, I think it's been made very clear, and that's really why I wanted the staff to do the presentation. I think it's been made very clear to the community and the broader community that this issue does relate to the flying of foreign flags. That's what the issue is, and I think that's why you see the turnout today. I don't think people are here because we might take away the opportunity to raise Wellness Day flag or something like that. I think they're here because of the foreign flag issue. But I'll leave the debate for later, and would now say that we are going to start with, thank you, with the deputations. And first on the list, and I apologize if I mispronounce anyone's name. When you get to the podium, if you want to say the correct pronunciation of your name, because I've had to do that most of my life, you're welcome to do that. But please feel free to come forward when your name is called. So the first, sorry, Councillor Ray, you have a question?
Thank you. If you can ask the deputants to state their name and the municipality where they live, would be appreciated.
Sure, no problem.
A lot of people never got a chance to fill out the blue form. If you can just make an announcement, those who want to speak can come and fill out the form and hand it over to the clerk.
Okay. Hopefully we've got some more blue forms on the way. But members of the public, I really do appreciate the fact that all of you are here today. I would just say this, you know, our rules permit 5 minutes, but hopefully after a while, if there's something new that you can add to the discussion, that would be good. If not, obviously you do have the right to address council, but I haven't added it all up. We may have to hold a second council meeting by the time we are finished all of these deputations, and that's just to get through this item, let alone all the other business. So I think you can appreciate, we do want to hear from you. You are going to be given the time, but if there's sort of another point that you could make that maybe hasn't been made before, and then also, you know, indicate your position on the motion that's before us. And we'll try to get through this as efficiently as we can. So the first speaker is Junie Young. Welcome.
Thank you. So let's see if we are ready to begin. So good afternoon, Mayor Scarpetti and the esteemed members of the Markham City Council. The City of Markham holds foreign flag raisings to commemorate and honor national days for our local...
I apologize.
Yes?
We'll start your time again.
Okay.
Councillor Ray did ask for name and the municipality you reside in. Just and even if you don't reside here, you know, you are...
Oh, sorry. My name is actually pronounced Junie Young, and I come from the city of Richmond Hill, and I represent the Hanfu movement of Eastern Canada, which promotes traditional Chinese clothing and Chinese culture in a post-imperial and decolonial approach in not just Richmond Hill, but all across the Greater Toronto area.
Okay, and start again. I apologize.
Of course.
I wasn't doing my job by making sure you stated your name and where you're from, so I apologize.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mayor Scarpetti and the members of the Markham City Council. So the City of Markham holds foreign flag raisings to commemorate and honor the national days for our local communities of that country's origin at the community flagpole. Yet despite the program and the policy being called a community flag raising event, only national flags and local organizations without monetary conflicts and interests are eligible to fly their flags. And it cuts out about half of the actual community from actually participating. So why half? When you think about the origins of how our Canadian cultural mosaic and diversity got here, it is not difficult to see that our country's diverse immigrant history originates from the instability and conflict of another's. Despite having recollected their lives, and many of them now do business with the country of their origin, they have not forgotten that the flag which currently flies over their former homeland is a reminder of that anxiety and fear, displacement and oppression. Consider Sri Lanka. For many Tamil Elam, who now call Canada home, their current flag of their South Asian country is the result of a bloody civil war. Displacement, genocide, and trauma notwithstanding, their flag, the